everyone, I'm Vivek Atray and we're here for another episode of the Good Vibe Show. And this time we have two people whose heart is for Chandigarh and Chandigarh is in their heart. And Professor Rajnish Wattas, who's a dear friend, and he's been for many years a renowned personality in Chandigarh in terms of an expert in architecture, urban planning and landscaping, and is an author of multiple books, a columnist, also a former principal of the Chandigarh College of Architecture. Rajnish, thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
And Deepika Gandhi, who's an associate professor at the Chandigarh College of Architecture till recently and now is into her own practice with her husband Harish Gandhi. And Deepika is renowned for her work in Chandigarh in terms of the Le Corbusier Center, which came up in a few years ago, or rather more than a few years ago now. And also the Chandigarh Museum, the Chandigarh Architecture Museum, and also for INTAC, where she's the co-convener, and other activities that she started, which we'll talk about. So my first question very directly, we are in Chandigarh in the UT Guest House, which is part of the heritage zone, I guess, of Chandigarh. So how much does Chandigarh mean to you and what does it mean to you, Rajnish?
I am Chandigarh.
You are Chandigarh.
And Chandigarh is in me.
Okay.
Because I came to the city before the open hand monument was built.
Right.
So I am as ancient as that. And I first set my foot on the soil of Chandigarh even before I was joined the School of Architecture. My father was posted in Kerala, and three of us friends, we came by a bus. Chandigarh was just coming up, we were schoolboys, and we carried our own bikes. We were three friends and two bikes. So one bike had to be, sort of a piggyback. I still remember we got down at the bus stand, and from Neelam Cinema we started roaming around. And a little fight, erupted because the one who had to pedal, he had to carry me, and I was quite chubby at that time.
At that time also?
Yeah, ate too many mangoes. So, that was the sweat part of it. But I remember the Capitol complex was just coming up, and I had no idea that I would join architecture, and so that's how my journey. But you're coming back to your question, that seriously speaking, there is, I think, some umbilical cord attached of the city with me, and I with the city, because I actually joined Punjab Engineering College, my father being an engineer, and I was doing stints in the workshop and wearing workshop dress, and I noticed that the Chandigarh College of Architecture in the same campus had, among other attractions, very charming girls.
Surroundings.
And Punjab Engineering College had, two girls. But
you changed your stream because of that?
And they were doing very interesting creative things. They were doing works like designing a hotel, a seaside resort. हम बना रहे होते थे वहाँ लेथ के ऊपर. I said, let me decide. I went back, told my father that I want to join architecture. And he was so busy playing bridge. He said, you're a young man, you do whatever you want to, I'll support you. So Chandigarh has been part of my consciousness, part of my soul, and rest is history.
Very well said. I'll come back to you. Deepika, the same question for you, and of course I'm going to talk about the books you co-authored with Rajnish ji, but also add in your answer, how much have you learned from Rajnish?
Okay, so I'll start with the beginning, that how I came into architecture and how I came to Chandigarh, because they're both interrelated.
Yes.
So architecture, again, it's all destiny. Now, there was one time I would not believe, youngsters nowadays also, I think they don't believe in destiny or something like that. But I did not even know about architecture as a profession, and being from a typical middle class family, I was always into art. But it was pre-decided that either you become a doctor or you become an engineer. So out of the two, although I loved biology, I said, okay, let me try engineering. And my brother, who was very brilliant, he got into medical, non-medical, everywhere. Now he gets into Roorkee University and he gets admission in architecture. So he goes there for a month, cribbing, complaining, ye engineering thodi na hai, kind of a thing. So he comes back home and I see his worksheets and I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? You're sketching and you're making patterns or whatever. He says, yehi to padhai hai. I said, ye tumhari padhai hai? So what is this? He says architecture, and this is what we do. And we are made to look at buildings and appreciate paintings. And I said, this is what I would love to do. So that's when I got hooked to architecture. So that was decided, and I was just 13 I think at that time, and he's quite elder to me. So I decided, okay, architecture it is. Now Chandigarh happened again by chance because one of my classmates, then I joined engineering for some brief time, just like sir, I joined some inane course in engineering. And one of my friends, he just left a form one day in the classroom and opened the form, and it was like Chandigarh College of Architecture. I said, there's an architecture college in Chandigarh? He says, yeah, and I don't want to fill the form, I don't want to leave Delhi, because I belong to Delhi, I don't want to leave Delhi and I don't want to go to Chandigarh. I said, can I fill this form? He said, yeah, go ahead, last date I bhar de. Last date I fill the form, I get through somehow, and I get admission into architecture, so the rest is, as I say, history. So both the things, my interest in architecture and in like getting admission over here, both were like, I don't know how predestined. And amazing part is I come to the city which is actually the Makkah of architecture. Absolutely. And within 2 or 3 weeks of coming to Chandigarh, although I have been brought up in Delhi, I sort of decided, okay, this is the place I want to live in. I mean, it gave me so much of peace of mind and aesthetics and a clutter free kind of a thing, and I immediately sort of fell in love with Chandigarh. That I decided
so coming to the details later, but what does it mean to you, Chandigarh?
Chandigarh to me means a lot of things. As I said, aesthetics. If you have a little artistic bent of mind, especially to me, the clutter of Delhi, the visual clutter, I am not saying in terms of garbage or whatever, that of course is there. Visually, like you don't realize, when you leave Chandigarh, you realize that how cluttered our cities are. You'll have a house, then office building, then a factory, then this, then that.
Overhead wires.
Yeah, so Chandigarh has this orderliness, and the trees, the greens, the avenues, everything is so planned. It is like, it actually puts you at ease, and most people don't value that or realize that because they live it every day. So you don't realize the value of, so Chandigarh to me means a lot of things. It means time. You can get from anywhere to anywhere. In Delhi, I was traveling for 1.5 hours to reach my office and come back. So you leave home at 7:30, you come back home at 7:30 and you're dead tired. You've gone through hell. So road rage is a real thing in Delhi, but in Chandigarh not much so, because even if you're sitting in your car looking at a beautiful tree with some orange flowers, purple flowers, so it's actually good like that.
So how much of your association with Rajnish ji has impacted your career, your thinking? And then we come to the books.
A lot. Again, one of those things of predestined things. I think it's again, I think it's a series of destiny things. So I joined as a faculty member in the college, and Professor Wattas is given an order by the governor to write a book on the Sukhnali.
Okay.
Now I happen to love the Sukhnali. Okay. So and he, of all the teachers, because बहुत सारे young teachers, and he says, hey, you come here, okay? We have to write this book. So you start collecting material on that. Now, godsend opportunity. I love to write. My English teacher was very upset with me that I did not want to become an author. She always felt I should be an author. And architecture kar rahe ho tum, you're wasting your talent or whatever. So I said, oh, this is godsend. I love the lake. I love writing. So let me do that. So vacations mein humne I started making a draft or whatever. And then suddenly one day sir gets a call from the governor ki dikhao mere ko script. Now without telling him, I had started refining it. I was not just collecting data, I started actually writing it. I work a little fast, so I got bored to maine likhna shuru kar diya. So then I said, sir, I didn't tell you, but I started writing some script. So part of it was done. So I was, this is good to go, let's show it to him or whatever. But it is to his magnanimity that, as a principal, I was just a junior teacher, he could have just easily kept my name as a research assistant. But he said, no, you've written a part of it, so you become a co-author now. So that's how we became co-authors and co-conspirators, as we call ourselves now. And so with sir, the good thing is not just at that time, but even now, how should you take a course which is towards academics, towards scholarliness, how to remain an eternal student. Like half our discussions are about ki, "Arey sir, meko ye mila." Then he will be, "Arey mujhe." So we are like finders in this journey, like
even
everything.
Before we started shooting, I saw you both discussing something, which was like as if you're students of.
Yeah, exactly. So we that, and it's very inspiring to be around people like sir. That okay, you don't need to retire, you don't need to grow old, you don't need to get grumpy as you retire. You can, eternal student, and there's more to life, and like friend, philosopher, guide. Like my daughter says, oh, aapke bestie hai wo kind of thing. It's a very strange thing.
No, absolutely. And Rajnish, Sukhna Sublime Lake of Chandigarh is one book. Le Corbusier Rediscovered Chandigarh and Beyond is the other. So tell us about these books and how did they come about, and a little bit of the ethos of each.
The first I'll talk about the first book that
Yeah.
I co-authored, that is The Trees of Chandigarh.
Right.
So when I joined architecture, and after that my first job was with Joseph Stein, the American architect, and he was very closely associated with landscape design. And when I was a young architect in his studio, so he had asked me to, he was doing some project extension of Triveni Kalasmaya, and he had said that Mr. Wattas, he used to call me, Mr. Wattas, I want a jamun tree over there. So हमें तो जैसे था, trees were trees, I mean, you did a template kind of thing. So it came, no, you didn't get it. This is not jamun. I said, okay, maybe jamun लगा देते हैं और क्या होगा. So I tried to do some, but to cut the long story short, he was a very kind, you see, there is always one mentor who gives a very big turn in your life.
Yeah.
Really, when I look back.
Just like you have been for her, he was for
she's
you.
been kind enough.
There's so
And
many-
I think on camera, sitting in front of both of us, she said it was like a godfather. I was putting a gun on her head to say all the nice
I can
things.
see
But
the synergy.
then he was the person who was a born teacher. He was a teacher in America. So he said, tomorrow morning you come, the usual studio time was 9, you come at 8:30. मैंने कहा यार और मर गए 8 साढ़े come. I went at 8:30. He was ready. He said, okay, we are going in the car. Get your sketchbook and your pencils.
Okay.
He took me to India Gate. वहाँ जामुन के पेड़ लगे हुए हैं. And he even told me these are not just ordinary jamun. These are rai jamun. They are different than. These are the trees which I want to plant there also.
Okay.
Now you sit here and learn to watch the tree, observe it, and sketch the jamun tree and walk back. I'm going. Actually, these are the real iconic
These are the
teachers.
learnings, yeah.
So after that, I really got into, landscaping. I joined the School of Architecture and Planning for Masters in Landscape Design. I couldn't complete the course because I had to go UPSC selection. So when I came here, Mr. Datta Prakash was again another mentor.
The principal of the college at that time.
Who had worked with corporates. So
Great
he noticed my interest and he says, why don't you, Wattas used Stein ke office mein, everybody after Mr. Stein, they started calling me Mr. Wattas. एक ने कहा वैट तेरा नाम वैट 69 विस्की होती थी ना, so during lunch hour they would say, oh वैट 69 इधर आ तो, so all in good fun. They were very kind. And then he says, why don't you take the photographer every week and go and start documenting trees of Chandigarh, and you get in touch with horticulture. So I made an album of the trees, and then I started reading and lot. And then he said, no more visiting teachers, you will teach landscape design. And I had studied, so therefore the love for documenting, observing. And then this book, I had done a thesis, a master's thesis on trees as elements of urban design.
It's a wonderful book. It's
Then
really
Mr.
important.
Chattar Singh was the director,
He was there
deputy
too.
commissioner and director of forest. He used to come and chat with me in my office. Mind you, आजकल कोई DC नहीं आएगा. So I mean, I doubt it.
But former DC chatting with you now.
I mean, you were a unique model. You never got the stuff.
But come to the two books I mentioned.
So the number one book, Trees of Chandigarh, is literally based on my thesis, except that we got a very brilliant horticulturist, Mr. Harish Singh, who's now his co-author.
Excellent.
So we used to sit in Mr. Chattar Singh's house on weekend. He used to treat us to many things, music, classical, and we would dictate, and so the book came out. And it was a straight away big hit. Even today it sells very well.
I know about it.
And the second book, Lake, Sublime Lake, she's already talked about, that was the second book. And this Le Corbusier rediscovered.
Yeah, very important.
That is a very significant book. And in the world, in global circulation, that is when we had this conference in 2015
Yeah.
for pitching for the UNESCO tag. That time we had got the who's who of experts on Corbusier and Chandigarh from all over the world. So they had spoken, we had structured. Again, that is how we became co-conspirators.
Yeah.
When the advisor said, "I give you a carte blanche," I was panicky also. कि मैं अब काम कहाँ कराऊँगा? So the reliable, trusted my younger colleague. So इसको पकड़ा फिर college. So that is how then you were there. I don't know, the world's best people from India. They came and spoke on different aspects of it. And then we got an idea after the thing that we have got such a rich material, we had something, and why don't we transcript and turn it into
publish?
We had very good, Home Secretary Mr. Anurag must make special ones. He said this will be a winner. We got to a publisher who said, I don't want need any support. There's such good material.
We'll come back to this, how the right people in the right time, like Anurag Agarwal, you mentioned, Mr. Agarwal, how they can take things forward, and sometimes the bottlenecks do not allow things to happen. But Deepika, now coming to the crux of Le Corbusier, what does he mean to you? What have you understood of his legacy, and what do you want to talk about him?
To be frank, as a student of architecture, I did not appreciate Corbusier much.
Mm-hmm.
I was always more drawn towards the works of Frank Lloyd Wright and other architects. And it's surprising that, which I feel even now, that even though we are in Chandigarh, we are living in a city planned by him or whatever, we don't teach enough about him. And I don't know, somehow we sort of glossed over his parts. We did not really, we were not very taught very well about his things. It was only when I was working as the museum in charge, when it became my job to actually spread the heritage. Now you can't really do that without understanding it yourself. That is when I had to study more deep down into it. So as a student, Corbusier's influence on me was very little, in fact. It was more about the other architects, about other Japanese architects, maybe Indian architects, Indian good architects, who funnily were taught by Corbusier. So we were inspired by them, but not directly by Corbusier. In fact, I think somewhere down the line, it's a little fashionable to criticize people who are very popular. So it was very, Corbusier did not do anything or whatever, and even I started following that narrative. But it was only when I went into the museums and when I had to literally write about him, read about him, research about him, add material about him, then you realize, that what he did was actually phenomenal. It was not actually phenomenal. It was not, of course, disclaimer, Chandigarh was not made by Corbusier, it was made by an entire Indian team, a top-notch team which comes once in a century kind of a team, okay? He happened to be the tool through which it all got formalized. And Corbusier, I would not say that he inspired me very much in terms of I should also be doing that. But that is exactly the whole point, that a person like Corbusier, when you read about his life, about his discipline, about his thoughts about architecture, that he used to go so deep into it. Like most good architects, in fact the good architects are actually philosophers, and they know how to translate that philosophy into a tangible thing. So the intangibles, you can talk about a lot of things, but
we all read Fountainhead when we were growing up. So.
Exactly. That was based on Frank Lloyd Wright, by the way. Right. So how to translate this intangible into the tangible, how to think about things beyond what people are thinking of, how to think of architecture as not something just to make spaces, but something which controls a lot more, as something which can transform a society, to have that kind of a belief that as architects we can do that. I think that is that sense of pride in your profession and in your art and what you do. Excellence. That's I think what I learned from Corbusier.
And if you talk now, the most difficult question, how did Chandigarh become Chandigarh? What happened in brief? Pandit Nehru, Le Corbusier, and in the middle you had the person who died.
Noviki.
Yeah, Noviki. Talk about this.
See, Chandigarh is a child of destiny. In fact, it is a child of tragedy. As I said the other day also, the Holocaust of partition happened. You had more than 1 million people, living in the tents. Well-off people living with relatives. So it was like a really, slicing not only of geographical, a map it was slicing the hearts of people, slicing the souls of people. Punjabis could never reconcile with the loss of the heart.
Yeah.
So Chandigarh was basically conceived as a resettlement project. You see, I want to clear some myths which we have, both of us have been unveiling in our research, is that the you see, question is why a new city had to be created and why not. There were so many contestations कि आप अम्बाले को बना लो, it's on the main line, make a parallel twin city, make Jalandhar, these were the prominent cities. Why do you want to have a greenfield city? And the reason was that all those cities were already overburdened, and a twin city, a twin of a of a low grade entity will be even how much better can you get?
Oh, that's great leadership by Pandit Nehru and.
So Punjab, in the Punjab, Karo was not there. At that time, the premier was Bhim Sen Sachal or Gopi Chand Bhargava, and the entire cabinet, they were very keen on a new city, and it was like a very audacious aspiration. They had no money. The government of India, they thought central government, they said कि हमारे पास खुद, we were a popular.
India was a poor country.
We were, and we had the burden of partition. So, cutting the long story short, the men who envisioned Chandigarh, I would say huge credit to them. Because Corbusier would have done Chandigarh if somebody had wanted to make a new city. You see, I think we don't give sufficient applause or credit to the founding fathers. This dogged Punjabi thing कि हम कर लेंगे. Everybody. Then collecting the best talent.
Junior architect.
Everybody and politicians also. Bureaucrats did the civil servants at that time, Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Thapar, they wrote down the paper city, everything, and then how Meyer came. You see, a lot of people, the general impression is Corbusier ka shahar hai. And you get flagged. If I am at some party and some lady will get up, and say, ये Corbusier आपके ने क्या डब्बे बना दिए, मेरी छाती लीक करते रहते. You can't tell a older man.
Be careful with the ladies. Don't be a man of.
Or anyone. Men after 2 drinks are, as it is. So we'll not get into that. But they were very keen. The human aspect of it, to immediately send a team abroad to go and get a foreign architect. India में तो architect planner है ही नहीं. And Nehru, clipped their wings. And in fact, that is another myth that Nehru was wanting to get a. He said that we are very poor, can't afford a foreign. No foreign trips.
And Meyer was already here.
So he said already there are 2-3 foreign. One was Otto Koenigsberger, who had done Bhubaneswar. They were already working in India. And Meyer was also there. And Meyer was an urban town planner, basically. So he says, why did you pick one of them? So they went to meet. Koenigsberger was busy with, he said, look, I'll only be able to, she was very time. Meyer was very happy. It was a dream, to get a whole city would be anyone something to die for.
Absolutely.
How many architects get a lifetime? So, but then his partner, his main point, he died in a plane crash. So they had to again find a team.
So then Le Corbusier.
But that time they had to go abroad, and they were allowed with a lot of sarkari stipulation. They had planned a tour of 4 weeks and about 5-6 countries, cut down by finance. Only to this sufficient.
We've seen those letters in the museums.
So then the Corbusier was a reluctant.
And then correspondence between Corbusier and Nehru.
And Corbusier was very reluctant. Correspondence unki baad mein hui. But Corbusier was not agreeable to. And he said, your city can be designed in my studio. But then he sent, his other European art.
Beautiful pictures of him in the solar hat and
No, he used to come here and just work. And I slightly, I think she also will agree, but let me take the liberty of rephrasing what she said, at least with my bias, if it is so. Corbusier, to me, epitomizes truly a genius, because it was. He you can say modernism, and modernism is not a fashion. It was somebody who could read, as he said rightly, the society or the technology. I mean, you don't stop the world. You can't keep on wearing, clothing of putties.
Yeah.
So everything is. He could read that times have changed. So a different Greek classical, columns and all will look like fake.
Right.
So truthful architecture.
And we are in 2024, and largely his vision is still
enduring,
holding good.
still holding.
It's not like, of course, the traffic has increased, everything
Yeah.
has. But Deepika, if you were to explain to, let's say, a junior person or a novice, this just the crux of what is Chandigarh, what is so special about Chandigarh? Is it the linear arrangement? Is it the lungs of the city? What is it?
I think the most special thing is that Chandigarh, unlike other cities which are made on a drawing board, keeping some practical things like traffic and this in mind, Chandigarh was made with the human being at the center. Everything you see it revolves around the human body, the human being, the human life. So people think that modern architecture, and especially this term which has been really got wrong, brutalistic architecture. Now, brutalism just means exposed concrete. It does not mean brutal. It could be a really soft, it could be a really sculptural building. So Chandigarh actually, why is it different? Because it was made with 4 functions: that living, working, circulation, care of body and spirit. Now it's very easy to, sometimes what happens that sometimes things are made so simple that you get you don't see the depth behind it. So it's the same thing with Chandigarh, that it was laid out so simply, the planning was done so simply. Okay, the sector will be a self-contained unit. Funnily, I think people don't emphasize, he actually was thinking of a housewife who's taking care of the kids. How will she go to the market? How will she leave her child to the primary school? How will she go to the dispensary, to the grocery market? So a sector is actually like a little mohalla.
Yeah.
Then you have the greens at every level, from your doorstep. So even a poor person, he may not have a garden in his house, but just 10 steps away he has a huge park. His kids can play in a huge park. So same with the road. So all the, I think in the edict of Chandigarh, Kabuse writes that it's a city offering the amenities of a good life to the poorest of the poor.
That's
I think
what I
that
want
is
to
what the
take
crux.
up. Yeah, just moving on seamlessly to Rajnish ji, and has it evolved in the same manner? What are the challenges of today?
I think Chandigarh has done extremely well as a resilient city. You see, these days there's so much talk about climate change also. While many other cities were literally collapsing in the sense that people hung up on balconies on 8th floor or something.
Yeah.
Chandigarh was the least, at that time of the schools or the huge pandemic, children came back from big cities to live with parents. So because of the greenery that is embroidered into the master plan.
Nice word.
It's not something you ye khali pocket and now make it a park. It was interwoven. Like Deepika rightly said, that it is made to a human scale, human capacities, human needs.
We'll show this picture later. Just look outside the window, and the green is so beautiful.
So
The picture we'll try and show in the video.
Because exactly, during COVID, most people would go to the Layer Valley. So now with the climate change, we have the highest per capita tree canopy. Forest cover is the higher tree. We have also the highest per capita automobile car ownership. But even then, the resilience, when I mean that the inbuilt, absorbing the sponge capacity of nature embroidered into the city plan.
Rajnish ji, we can go on talking about Chandigarh, but I want to come to the writing part a bit more. We've already talked about the books you've authored. But writing is in your blood, in your heart. I mean, how do you find time and how do you write so much and published all over the place?
I think when you're very hungry for something, you'll find a way of getting it. I was a voracious reader right from my childhood, boyhood at least. Our home was always full of very good quality magazines, releases, life. And my father was a collector of books, and he would, when we were small children, he used to read out stories by the fireplace after dinner. and translate them into Punjabi or English. So, whatever the novels, epics, classics, so that storytelling went very deep.
Yeah.
And
you write lovely middles. I mean, they have nothing to do with urban planning and architecture.
Yeah.
Without people.
And then,
Impressions.
I would say that I was very much influenced by writings of people like R.K. Narayan, Ruskin Bond, of course, a whole lot of world famous authors. But what I really enjoyed was storytelling. And I started writing with travelogues, because travel is, you don't have to, you're going to a place, I would take pictures and I would make my children wear bright red shirts, and Mridula also, So they said, you are wanting to get the contrast with the mountain. हमारे साथ तो कोई लेना देना है नहीं. We are like performing monkeys. But that is and they would all be published. Because I was living for it. So, but the storytelling aspect, I read voraciously. I can sympathize with you, I can sympathize with her, because when I'm asked something, I digress into 10 stories, and one is not finished.
So today you've been very disciplined, I must say.
Then it must be your will. But otherwise, I think old age also is catching up, so I ramble on. But I feel when I'm on the keyboard of the laptop, I feel I'm with Beethoven on the piano keys.
Yeah.
I play music and I get so many ideas.
You're not of the Hemingway school of thought who said sit at your typewriter and bleed.
No.
That was his way of but Beethoven
But when there is a deadline, deadlines don't wait for inspiration. They have to be old saying. And when I have deadlines, sometimes I feel, why am I doing it? I am free, I am a retired person, I have a pension, why am I? But when the piece appears,
I think we should write middles, the title, headlines and deadlines.
And when the piece appears, now she is also publishing.
That joy.
When you pick up the newspaper or the magazine, when you see it in flesh and blood.
Nothing like it.
It's a very...
Deepika, we talked about it, like he mentioned family also. The support of family and people who have helped you in your progress in life.
I think it goes back to my school days, and I, being a faculty member, I realized what an impact a teacher can have. Till 10th standard, I was oblivious to the fact that I could write. I just used to get by, do well or whatever. It was my teacher, English teacher in 10th, 11th, 12th, who actually said, oh my God, you write so well and you should become an author. And she was very disappointed when she came to me, I want to become an architect. And somehow I found a way. I think, writing comes very easy to me. It's as like speaking. I can actually write and I can think and I can assimilate things very well. So unlike it becomes a task for some people, but for me it's almost it's a relief in fact. So so my inspiration, of course, again, like Sir says, thankful to my father, because we were from a middle class family and not very, very well off or whatever. Two things you would always get: music and books. He said that anyone who knows, who has an ear for music and who reads will never be lonely in life, and that keeps you out of a lot of trouble. And I really believe that now. So no new clothes, no new shoes or whatever, but music, books, you have. So that developed my interest into writing and reading and this lifelong quest kind of a thing. So that has been very good for me, and of course, I have seen that when you read and write, it sort of indirectly gets translated into your own children also.
Yeah.
You can't keep asking your children to read or write till you don't do it yourself, and then it becomes natural to them. So
we all have children who have imbibed those same values, and we got them from our parents. That's how the cycle of life. Rajnishji, I know you love two things. I know. The rest maybe I know some, I don't know some. Mangoes and the walk at the lake. Talk about these two. Which mangoes do you love and why?
No second thoughts about it. Langras is the king of the mangoes, and your orchard Langras are the best.
Oh, don't tell
the sweetest.
Okay. All right.
No, why
and
not?
The walk at the lake, I'm joking.
Yeah,
of course you can.
And the only, which you can say, agriculture produce that I ever myself buy, I don't trust the cook, don't trust anyone, even my wife, is picking up the mulanga mangoes. I'll stop the car at a ready, even while getting late for golf, and like a wine collector, connoisseur, I know when it is good.
And this is the time we are shooting while the langas are ripening.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can, I'm drooling. And the other thing is, you said the lake. Lake, there is, it's two experiences sandwiched into one. Initially there was a lot of hustle and bustle crowd, and you're observing people, photo shoots are going on, newlyweds are, these days a trend, Punjabi music films are being, and there are on the other end,
soon to be weds.
Yeah, so there is a, you can say, shor sharaba of life. Its life is there.
Life is there,
Right?
No doubt.
That's another thing about being human beings. And the other side, there is the vast horizon, that ephemeral, ethereal reflections in the water, the hills, which are eternal at night. You can then, as you go further, you are getting detached from the crowd, they are thinning out, and then you are going into a soulful melody. Your music is playing on your soul, and you can then go to the end, sit there, just be philosophical.
I think what we learn from you, Rajnish ji, is this higher consciousness. The ability to detach yourself from the present and raise that level. Like you said, the soulful melodies. Everybody is not able to grasp them. You are able to tune in. That is something very, very.
If you have langas, then you will qualify.
And then that sense of humor and wit, which is also so vital. And Deepika, thank you. You have worked so hard on Chandigarh in various ways. Continue to do so. And I wish you both more power, more strength, more brains, more typewriter, keyboards, and more writings and more happiness. Thank you so much for being on the
best
Good
wish.
Vibes Show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much on having us on your show.
Most welcome.
It's a very prestigious thing. And my grandchildren, I'm right now my granddaughter.
You can boast about it later.
I can tell.
Thank you very much for watching.